Pop culture has sold us one of the most seductive ideas ever invented, that somewhere inside your skull, 90% of your brain is just sitting there, idle, untapped, waiting. Unlock it, the story goes, and you'd speak 40 languages. Move objects with your mind, calculate compound interest at the speed of light, maybe even fly. It's a beautiful story, and it is completely scientifically, embarrassingly false. So where did it come from, and what would actually happen if you really did fire up every neuron at once? The myth has surprisingly old roots. In the early 1900s, psychologist William James wrote that humans were making use of only a small part of their possible mental and physical resources. He meant it as motivation. Reach higher, try harder, you're capable of more. Somewhere along the way, a small part became 10%. Self-help books printed it as fact. Dale Carnegie referenced it. Advertisers loved it. By the time Hollywood got hold of it, the number was gospel. But here's the problem. Nobody, not James, not any neuroscientist before or since, ever measured anything that gave us that figure. There is no study, no scan, no source. It's a number that was invented, repeated, and sold. When researchers actually look at the brain, the picture is the opposite. Functional MRI scans show that across a normal day, eating breakfast, having a conversation, scrolling your phone, even sleeping, virtually every region of the brain lights up. Not all at once, but all of it, eventually. Even when you're doing absolutely nothing, your brain is humming. There's something called the default mode network, a constellation of regions that activates when you daydream, remember the past, or imagine the future. Your brain is never idle. It's the most expensive organ in your body to run, and evolution does not pay rent on empty rooms. Think about it this way. Your brain is 2% of your body weight. It burns 20% of your calories. It's the most metabolically expensive tissue you own. If 90% of it were unused, natural selection would have shrunk your skull a long time ago. Smaller heads mean easier childbirth, fewer calories needed, faster cooling. There is no evolutionary universe in which we'd carry around 3 pounds of useless meat between our ears. So the 10% myth fails on every level. It fails the brain scans, it fails the math, and it fails the cold logic of evolution itself. But that doesn't mean the question is silly, because there's a better version of it hiding underneath. What if you could use your whole brain, every neuron of it, at 100% of its capacity, all at once? That, it turns out, has an answer. Imagine every neuron in your brain firing simultaneously, all 86 billion of them, every region active, every circuit lit. This isn't a superpower, this is a seizure. A grand mal seizure is, almost literally, what happens when too many neurons fire at the same time. The brain becomes electrically overwhelmed. Muscles lock, consciousness collapses. People bite their tongues, lose bladder control, and wake up confused and exhausted on the floor. The reason your brain doesn't do this normally is because it spends enormous effort keeping most neurons quiet. Inhibition is half of how thinking works. For every neuron that fires, dozens of others are being actively suppressed so the real signal doesn't drown in noise. A brain at 100% activation isn't enlightened, it's broken. There's another problem: energy. Your brain already burns roughly 400 calories a day at rest, more than your heart, more than your liver. If you doubled that activity, you'd need to eat for it. Triple it, and you'd be fueling the equivalent of running a marathon while sitting still every single day. Quadruple it, and your blood sugar would crash, your body temperature would spike, and you would quite literally cook from the inside. The brain is not a muscle you can simply work harder. It's a finely tuned electrical system, and pushing it past its operating range doesn't unlock genius. It causes damage. But, and this is where it gets interesting, there are people whose brains do operate at unusual levels, and studying them tells us something important. Take savants. People like Daniel Tammet, who can recite pi to over 22,000 digits, or Stephen Wiltshire, who can draw entire city skylines from memory after one helicopter ride. Their brains are not using more capacity than yours. In many cases, they use less of certain regions, and other regions become dramatically more active. Or take London taxi drivers. To pass an exam called the Knowledge, they memorize 25,000 streets. Brain scans show the part of their hippocampus dealing with spatial memory is physically larger than yours. Not by using more brain, by training one piece of it. This is the real lesson. Capacity isn't the limit. Specialization is. Your brain isn't a battery sitting at 10%. It's an orchestra of 86 billion players, each doing one thing well, and the music depends on which sections you've rehearsed. You will never use all of your brain at once, because using all of it at once is medically catastrophic, but you can absolutely change which parts become exceptional. That's not science fiction, that's just learning. Which brings us to a much better question. Forget 100%. What is the best your brain could actually be? The answer might surprise you. The truth is, neuroscience already knows what makes a brain reach its peak. We just don't talk about it as much, because it's less sexy than a glowing capsule from a science fiction film. Sleep. Boring, obvious, unglamorous sleep. Skip it for one night and your reaction time drops to that of a drunk driver. Skip it for a week and your IQ effectively falls. Memory consolidation, emotional regulation, pattern recognition, all of it depends on what your brain does while you are unconscious. Sleep isn't downtime, it's the brain's most active maintenance shift. Exercise. Cardiovascular activity grows new neurons in the hippocampus, the only region in the adult human brain known to produce them. 30 minutes of sustained movement, 3 or 4 times a week, has been shown to delay dementia, improve mood, sharpen attention, and increase the physical volume of the brain itself. Learning hard things. The brain rewires in response to challenge. Musicians have larger motor cortices. Bilingual speakers show denser gray matter. Even learning to juggle for a few weeks produces measurable changes on a brain scan. Difficulty isn't a side effect of growth. Difficulty is the mechanism of growth. Social connection. Loneliness is, neurologically speaking, a stress response. People with deep friendships and frequent conversation show slower cognitive decline, better memory, and reduced risk of Alzheimer's. The brain evolved in groups. It works best in groups. And finally, attention. The single most powerful thing you can do for your brain is decide what gets to enter it. Every notification, every doom scroll, every interrupted thought trains the brain in fragmentation. Every long, focused session of reading or thinking or building trains it in depth. You become what you pay attention to. That isn't a metaphor, it's how synapses form. So here's the truth. Hollywood never quite managed to film. You don't have 90% of your brain locked away. You have 100% of it, every day, doing more than you can consciously track. The question isn't whether you can unlock more of it. The question is what you will let it become. A brain that sleeps, a brain that moves, a brain that struggles, connects, and pays attention. That brain doesn't move objects with telekinesis. It doesn't speak 40 languages overnight, but over a lifetime, it can do something far stranger. It can change itself. It can grow new connections in its 8th decade. It can recover from injury, master new skills, and become, measurably, physically, a different organ than the one it started as. That isn't a movie superpower. It's better, because it's real. And the strangest thing of all is this. You don't have to unlock it. There is no switch to flip. It already belongs to you. The only question is what you do with it tomorrow.